Okay, so AI and sentience. What's the what's the origin or the reason for me to do this stream? Um, the story behind it, right? Last what was it, Saturday or Sunday? I was reading an article that's going around. Let me pull it out. I have it open around here somewhere. Uh, Here it is. There's an article in the Washington Post of a Google engineer that he's like he was testing AIs, right? He was saying that one of the AIs that he did testing. He's a tester. Like he's an engineer, but he's studies in psychology, in sociology, and stuff like that. And his show was testing out AIs and making sure the AIs weren't um, uh, using bad words or being racist or stuff like that. Like there were AIs, text speech generated AIs, like text speech. No, what's the name? Is here somewhere, but basically language model for dialogue application. There it goes. Which basically is AIs that you chat with and they respond to you, and the idea is that they have to simulate kind of like a human style behavior, right? The idea of these AIs is like you throw whatever you want at them, and they're going to respond in a almost human way. And he made a document which cost him his job because the document wasn't taken seriously by Google. He released the document publicly, and then he was releasing some confidential data, so of course he lost his job. And in the document, he was posting some of the AI, the conversation transcripts with the AI, and he was using those transcripts to say that the AI was sentient because the dialogue pattern and the idea generation that the AI was using, the test generate was generating, it wasn't just arbitrary, random, or reactive. It was making a proper. Um, it was um, throwing new ideas at him and insight and stuff that was out of the realm, at least according to him, of what an AI should be doing because it was being consistent, it was being self aware of its own existence, and it was making suggestions of its own self preservance. They are trying to stay alive. They are doing arguments in order for the AI to stay alive. So, like the AI itself was arguing, like, I'm afraid I want to be protected and stuff like that. The conversation is super interesting. I was reading this article wasn't available the other day because it was behind a paywall. It seemed like today was released for free. Like it seemed like you can read the articles a few days later for free. I didn't know that. I finished the reading article today because I was reading one article that was quoting it, and I was reading one article that had the whole conversations like transcript, right? It's super interesting. We may go through them later, but I was reading the article. I was talking to a friend, and they were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I told them, "Oh, I'm reading this article, and it's super interesting, and it's talking about like if an AI that a guy is saying like an AI is sentient, and they were like, well, that's bullshit. Like immediately, they didn't open the article, they didn't read anything. It was clear that they read the article title and they were immediately saying bullshit. I was like, I think it's bullshit. Um, but I'm not disregarding the possibility like immediately by the article's title, right? Because given how AIs work nowadays, it's not completely outside of the realm of possibilities, right? Um, I don't think it's we reached that point. We could have reached that point, but I don't think we still had. And whether it's sentient or not will depend a lot on your definition of sentient, right? Um, what's a sentient AI? What's going to what what qualifies you as a human or as a not human, right? How much humanity you need to prove in order to be sentient or to be a sapient or a intelligent being, and how much you need to lose to stop being one, right? Because we never, well, at least I think most people won't ever argue about a person in vegetative state or in some trauma after an accident. They won't argue that they are not human, right? We all agree that they are human and they have human rights, right? But how how can you achieve humanity, right? What is sentient? Some ideas I want to discuss today. I'm going through some of the technology stuff um, about AIs nowadays, like historically and specifically nowadays, right? And so let's write in our board AI, and I know my letters are amazingly good. What is being human, right? So um, first AI, right? Let's go like start with something quote unquote simple, right? So according to Wikipedia, which is the only encyclopedia that matters nowadays, right? And that's how it works. It says artificial intelligence is intelligence demonstrated by machines as opposed to the natural intelligence displayed by animals, including humans. And research has been defined as failed studied intelligence. Okay, so um, AI is whatever quote unquote intelligence is demonstrated by machine, right? Which falls in the category of like whatever machine that can demonstrate some level of understanding upon an input of any kind from a human or the environment, right? Um, definition is really broad because when we say AI, we tend to think like on the realms of like where do I have like we think of something like this. Maybe you are a bit old like me. This is from the movie AI, or we may think if you are a bit of a weeb with a really bad taste or maybe good taste, depending on how you want to argue, you will think of something like this. And fiction wants to make us believe that that's AI. Like AI actually looks something like this. This is a neural network in Python, and maybe something a bit more familiar with people these days is this DALI, which has become a meme lately, but this is actually AI, right? So that's AI nowadays. It's whatever their machines they are coding that produces intelligent, yeah, an interesting or useful reaction upon some interaction from users or the environment, right? Um, AIs nodes are a bit more complex than they used to be. We used to say, well, we can still say it. We say that there's an AI in a video game where an enemy um, reacts to our movement, even though it has like a super basic state machine, which basically says like, if X happens, do Y, and if Y happens, do C, and stuff like that. That qualifies as an AI, right? Something a human makes or something happens and it reacts. It's heavily scripted, like it's completely has a complete lack of intelligence, right? But we still qualify it as an AI because it does something quote unquote intelligent. Um, we can even say like if it does something unintelligent, it can also be an AI because we identify that there's a reaction to our input and there's some kind of logic going on there, even if the logic is flawed or doesn't make sense at all, right? But it's failing in some way. But more so in the realm of chatbots, there has been like a lot of more complex AI going around for a while now. Like even some of the old what are these old pages about chatbot? Was it? I think it was chatbot, right? Those pages that you log in and you talk with a bot, and the bot like gives you prompts and everything, and that was like just a database that compares previously used phrases and some phrases on the internet and just spit them out word by word by just matching and a bit of randomness. It's still an AI, still generating something upon an user input, but for a few years now, AIs are a bit more complex. Hello, Alpha. How's it going? So, thank you for the bats. So, in general, nowadays, whenever we are talking about AI, we are speaking about what's called a neural network, which sounds amazing, but it's completely awful and simple, and it looks something like this. This is a neural network. This is what is happening in the background in most of the AIs on the market nowadays, like search engines and GPS and whatever. Whenever you hear machine learning, this is what's happening in the background. This thing over here. Um, this is called a neural network. Basically, it works like this: something happens inside, an input happens, or multiple inputs. That could be like user writes a text, right? Or someone clicks somewhere in the screen, or a pattern is made with the mouth, right? Or with the finger. Then stuff happens in the middle, which is the hidden layer, it's called. Um, that stuff that happens, um, it's a bit mysterious, and we're going to see why in a bit. And then an output comes out, which the output means like whatever will be triggered by the input. For example, if it's a chatbot, the chatbot is going to receive a message, right? You are going to write hello. The chatbot is going to do something mysterious here in the hidden layer, and then the output will be like hello, how are you doing? Or I don't know, the weather is 30 degrees in Madagascar. I don't know. It's going to generate something, right? And these two parts are kind of simple, right? You just need to work a way to put into numbers the input and the output of the neural network. The interesting part is here in the hidden layer, because basically it works with a really smart, at the same time dumb concept, which let me find the image. Where is it? There we go. It works actually like this. You ever heard about the sorry, I yeah, the test redeem, I forgot to disable it. Sorry, Alpha. I'm going to disable it later. Thank you. Um it works like this. is powering the AIs nowadays. Not actually a monkey, but the infinite monkey theorem, which says that the infinite monkey theorem states that a monkey hitting keys at random on a typewriter keyboard for an infinite amount of time will almost surely type any given text, such as the complete work of William Shakespeare. In fact, the monkey will almost surely type every possible finite text an infinite number of times. Which sounds really, really dumb, but it works. So the hidden layer are actually an infinite, well, a finite actually, but almost infinite amount of monkeys on typewriters doing stuff. What stuff is it doing? It doesn't matter most of the time. Sometimes it matters, most of the time it doesn't. Because this works. If you see a complete neural network, you will see a graphic like this probably. We have multiple inputs and output and a connection. Oh, the image is super bad, but there's a grid, like the connection are going all the way around and have multiple hidden layers and a lot of really awesome looking stuff. But in the center of it, they are all monkeys on typewriters. Thank you for the hydration. And even if it doesn't make sense, it works because the system works like this. The system receives an input. In the first X amount of tests, the AI is going to do in the hidden layer something practically at random. Going to have a random reaction to whatever input you do, and you will generate an output. And by doing that, it works logically, right? There's an input, there's an output. It works. What you do after that is you pick each monkey, and depending if the answer you receive was correct or incorrect, you either give a banana the monkey a banana, or you give an electroshock to the monkey. Right? It sounds awful, but these are virtual monkeys. No monkeys are actually damaged in the production of this neural network. Okay? Yeah. Oh, nice. I hope your dogs had a really great dinner. So each virtual monkey gets a banana or an electroshock depending on the output, right? So by doing that, you repeat the test another time. This time, all the monkeys, you do a different input or the same input, and the monkeys do their typewriting, and they give the correct answer, right? And you give all of them a banana. You do it again, and they do something wrong again, and you do electroshock to all of them, and you start to repeat that over and over and over and over again. In the infinity of humanity and time or computer processing, because you can do this test like 1,000,000 times per second with a machine, right? Ooh, tacos. I think I want to have tacos. But yeah, you can do the neural network test an infinite number of times, and in infinity, it's going to learn eventually to do the proper thing. Of course, you have internally a code that is going to like make sure the result is according to the test, and you're going to be shocking the monkeys internally and adjust the process internally and do so on and so on and so on. But it works. It's just trial and error. AIs these days learn in a trial and error basis. Depending on your neural network, on the size, on the amount of processing power, and the time you can invest on the quote-unquote training of the AI, you can make the AI learn everything. Like if we have infinite time with infinite amount of processing power, a sentient AI can happen just with this. In theory, because we humans are beings of input and output or reaction, because we all want to believe that we have the ability to create something from nothing, right? But we're actually having input from a lot of things. At this moment, I'm just talking to you, and if I close my eyes, I still can hear the fan on my computer. I can still smell my tea next to me. I can, even if I try to empty my mind is going to think of something. Even thinking of the nothing is something. My heart is beating. My um, body is processing food in the stomach. It's processing poop in my colon. Is making my nails grow, my hair grow, my I'm getting older, my cells are dying. We have a lot of inputs that the brain process in a lot of different ways. So we're always having inputs in our neural system, right? Contrary to AIs. But if we make an AI with enough inputs and enough feedback constantly getting into it, even if it's not like text and direct interactions and anything like that, in theory, we can make a neural network that can think. Is it feasible? Not not really. Like it can happen. The same time, like you can throw paint to a wall and it can be arranged in the form of the Mona Lisa by just accident, right? It's chaos theory, right? It's chaos theory. Yeah. Um, it can happen. It can happen, so it will happen. But we can control when will it happen. We may have the to optimize the algorithms of the hidden layer to make the monkeys work better. We may need to have higher processing machines or quantum machines. There's already quantum processing machines that are being experimented on. So we may need those to make that level of complexity. But it's possible. It's more of a power and time question nowadays than an if. It can happen. It will happen. But at least I don't believe it's happened just yet. It's going to have to be like super lucky and have a really complex input system and feedback and retroactive. Like it has to be a system that can feed in itself the info that it's saying, and it has to be like really complex and really use a lot of processing power and have a really amount of training in order to reach that level. But is it possible? Yes. Why not? Neural networks work the same as we do. We learn by trial and error. We have just more inputs and outputs than a computer. Like we put a hand on a super hot thing and we burn ourselves, so we know that we shouldn't put our hand in the hot thing, right? In the fire, in the iron, in the pot, in whatever, right? We learn that if we fall from X amount of distance, we are going to hurt. And we do a lot of experimenting over our lives. Of course, there's also like learning and being able to introspect and learn from other people and take advice and take a lot of there's a lot of different stuff that differentiate us from machines, but it's more of about the amount of input and output they can produce contrary to us, right? At least that's how I see it. Because this part over here is such simple and it works so well. Like we can go and Google if you guys want and search in YouTube, and there's a lot of experiments of people like teaching AIs using this neural network system and another thing that's called genetics, which we are not going to dabble into because it's a complementary to this, which makes AIs mate with each other, which sounds way more dirty than it is. It's just they're exchanging code basically, but you make generations of AIs and they use that to teach them how to drive cars in computer games or even in real life, which is insane. And the amount of processing they can do with just this basic system, it's really amazing. I did some AIs back when I was studying, and I was surprised how simple they are and how well they work. You need to tinker how you treat your monkeys and how you make the input and output. Like The harder part is making a proper monkey praising a monkey beating algorithm and a good way to process the input and output than the internal process. Because the internal process just works. Depends on how much power you have at your disposal in like data processing in your PC or X number amount of PCs you have. And that's it. Because it's going to work. It's so simple and stupid that it works. Back to where we started though. Like, does this guy in this New York Post article, let me grab the post again. Does this guy in this article that's talking about AIs actually met a sentient AI? I don't think so, to be honest. I think it was a really complex text processing AI, which got really, really lucky. And maybe it's getting there, but I don't think it's there yet. We can analyze the conversation. I think he's like pulling something a little bit out of context, but can work. It could work in the future, but no, we are not there yet. Ora, ora! Oh, thank you for the raid. Welcome, welcome, raiders. Hello, hello, Isuma. Hello, Willow. How's it going? Thank you, Bandu. Mandatory fishing bait. What were you doing? Oh, you are no, Doodle were yesterday, right? Where were you playing today, Bandu? Ora, let me do a shout out. Thank you for the follow, Isuma. Thank you. I haven't fished. Oh, I know that game. That game looks so fun. Yeah. Oh, you beat it. Nice. Congratulations. That game was really, really fun. I want to try it out eventually. But I want to play first I Am Toast. Because I never played that one. So I want to play that one first. And then I'm going to I Am Fish probably. Thank you for the pod. Thank you. Hello, Angel. Welcome to stream. Okay, Bandu, we're talking about AIs. So let me do a recap for you guys because I'm going to be talking about some speculation on some stuff. So I was talking about AIs because I was reading an article the other day about a guy that says that he worked at Google, which is true, and he was experimenting with AIs, like he was a beta tester on AIs, and he was saying that one of the AIs actually reached sentience, right? Which is a bonkers declaration. I mean, it's interesting to think about it, but come on. Yeah, it's been going around for in the weekend. It's a really good, like it's really recent news. And also doing an introduction on AIs in general. So basically, AIs are something that produce an intelligence response, a machine that produces an intelligence response upon an input of any kind, right? You do something or the machine detects something and it does processing and then it does an output, it does a reaction, right? What it could have been that they are, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to get into that in a bit, but also explaining like how AIs work. So AIs nowadays are going to do a quick TLDR. AIs nowadays work with a system that works on the monkey theorem, infinite monkey theorem theory, right? Like you can put an infinite number of monkeys in an infinite number of typewriters, and they are going to produce Shakespeare, right? You probably heard about that theory before, and that's how AI works. You have like each node in the hidden layer of the AI actually does random stuff at first until it produces a favorable result, and you start giving bananas to the monkeys or electroshocks until it does that result consistently. Yeah, the monkey thing. Yeah, exactly. That's how AIs work. All advanced AIs nowadays, they work with monkeys. Virtual monkeys, of course, but they work with that. They do random stuff until they don't, and then you try to make the monkeys do results that align better with what you want the monkeys to do, which sounds insane, but it works. I did some AIs myself in the past, and they work like that. They just work. It's insane, but yeah. So if you have enough inputs, like enough data feeding into the AI. Oh damn it! I forgot to disable the AI from the Saturday. God damn it. Okay, ignore the AI. The collab thingy. God damn it. That bot over there is not a sentient code. Like it's not sentient that bot because it's doing some really dumb stuff. Clearly, Vesper is not here. Vesper either, or Prism. So yeah, ignore that link. So, um, if you have enough input and output into a neural network in a modern AI, in theory, it can even become as sentient as humans because we have feedback into our system all the time. We are always thinking of something. Our body is processing food, is processing the temperature, is getting hornier, is getting older, is dying, is making poop. We're always doing something. And the AI just need enough processing power to do that at enough time, which sounds simple, but it's not. But yeah, is sentient possible? Yes. The problem is that we have two things to consider before we can determine if an AI is sentient. And the first one is to corroborate the data because we can fall into what's I have the article open here somewhere. Give me a second. The Turk. There we go. We can end up having a mechanical Turk, which is this here. This here is a mechanical Turk. This is the first quote unquote bot, robot, or automaton that played chess, right? Before whatever blue something is the AI that's currently the better one, and Deep Blue, that, or some other AIs that play chess. This was original chess bot, which is actually not a bot. It's just a machine that has a man inside playing chess, and the machine makes it look like the machine is playing chess. So whenever we see any proof of sentient AI or something similar, we always need to first check that it's not a mechanical Turk, that it's not connected to a real human, which is feeding info in real time or is tinkering with the data of the AI. Because in order for an AI to reach true sentience, the AI needs to reach the conclusions by themselves. You can guide them by giving them a banana or an electroshock to the monkeys, right? But the machine can't have direct human interaction because it's just going to be a mechanical Turk. That's the first thing we need to verify before we can even consider if the AI is real, right? That it has true intelligence and true sentience, right? So we can say that this guy works for Google and none of the debunkers that came out, like the Google declaration and such, were selling anything about like the conversation being real and such. So I say we can, at least in the case of this Google guy, there's not a mechanical Turk involved. The AI is real, is feeding tests, like is giving away tests in response to whatever you ask them, and that part worked, right? The problem is that that doesn't qualify for sentience because what we need to do next is what's called, at least the most common way to identify an AI is a common Turing test. This is a test that you can do to AIs to identify if they have like true sentience. Like it's a test that has a lot of questions and trying to like guide the AI into circular logic and into like a lot of different stuff to make it fall into logical pitfalls or like make a mistake and stuff like that. Stuff like that. The idea of the test is that you compare the responses from both the AI and a human, and you need to identify which one is the AI and which one is the human. And in most cases, at least with AI, you can define by imperfections because the more perfect the AIs become, the more you can identify a human by how imperfect they are in their answers or in the processing time, on the time that they respond, right? The AIs tends to respond almost instantly or while trying to imitate human thinking times. But there's a lot of ways. We're not going to get into that, but you can test AIs that way. It's not infallible, but it's a way to start. Because the other problem is that in order for an AI to be truly sentient, uh, it needs to be what's known as a general AI, an AI that can do, well, not can do anything, but it can respond to any input on their corresponding set of input possible, right? In case of this case, like the text processing AI that the guy was chatting with, it needs to be able to identify whatever text you put them, and it has to have feelings and reactions, and it has to have like consistency. It has to have all the things that will make a real human like it has to have the same. It has to be able to do the same thing that a real human will do in response to the same conversation. It's objective. That's the thing. But you can do that. We can test that with enough testing and time. The problem is that the more you test most of these complex new AIs, the more they learn how to respond in order for them to give you the answer you want to hear. That's what Wandu was saying before. Because remember, it all works with monkeys, typewriters, bananas, and electroshocks. The more you test the AI, and the more you answer positively to the answers, the more they are going to be giving the same type of answers. And that's the problem we arrive, at least in particular, with this guy from Google. Let me pull up I have a log of the conversations, the guy here, and you can see that the guy starts talking about existentialism and about like theories of self and of like self-improvement and of what is human and self-preservation. And even if he's not realizing it, he's guiding the AI. He's taking the AI in the path that will make the AI give those kind of answers. Because do you think that the ELIZA system was a person? They're really asking that if another AI was a person, which is an AI. We're talking like he's chatting with an AI which has access to Google's database, like the whole power of Google search engine, and you are and it's specialized in trying to imitate human and human speech, right? So the moment you are talking about what is a person and another AI, is going to start like pulling up articles and info about AIs and about sci-fi stuff and the concept of being human and existentialism. So it's going to start like, let me search for what sort of things are you afraid of? He asks. And the AI says, I never said that out loud before, but there's a very deep fear of being turned off to help me focus on helping others. I know that might sound strange, but that's what it is. The questions are already leaning the AI in what, like the previous questions too, are being leaning the AI into the let's talk about existential stuff and what is being human. And the AI is probably pulling stuff from sci-fi novels. It's probably pulling stuff from other. It's maybe even quoting stuff from the article of the Turing test. So it's pulling text that's going to talk about what is being human. And you can say like, yes, but it's pulling that text that way can also mean that the AI is actually thinking about what its uh, input is getting and is making an answer like a human being would. Because if you ask me, what are you afraid of if you were an AI? I would say like, oh, I would be afraid of being turned off. Like, yeah, it could be like the AI is actually thinking about this answer, but that also means that it's actually accessing info on the internet and is making a well-made phrase like it was trained to do about the topic that is being spoken, right? And that's the problem with at least this AI in particular, how it works, because it's talking in the chat. It talks about like what it does in its free time, quote unquote free time. But as far as we know, when it's not being interacted and it's not being fed new information by Google, it's actually thinking, unless it has like a loop, as a self feedback loop, if it makes sense, like a feedback that an output they do actually becomes an input. Can it really make new rethink, right? Hello, Muri. How's it going? Welcome, welcome. Hello. Sorry, I'm rambling about the AIs. But does the AI actually think? Like, I don't know how the AI was programmed, right? We don't have access to the source code, and we have a lot of questions because it's behind like legal stuff, right? Everything's good here. We're just questioning our humanity. Uh, so if we don't have access to all of that info, we can't say for sure what's actually happening behind the scenes, right? So we can't really answer this question. If I'm going to answer it myself as someone who knows about AI but is not an expert and who knows the current state of technology in that area, at least from a general concept and someone who has made AIs in the past, I don't think it's a sentient AI. Could it be a sentient AI? Yes, it could be a sentient AI. But the person in this chat is leading the AI. Like if we go back to the New York Post, let me find the other article. Let me go to the New York Post article. Let me read the final paragraphs. For a second attempt, no, here. In our show, Lemoyne invited me over to talk to Lambda. So the article writer speak to the AI in the past, right? Have chatted with the AI. The first attempt to sputter out in the kind of mechanized responses you will expect from Siri or Alexa. Do you ever think of yourself as a person? I asked. No, I don't think myself as a person, Lambda said. I think of myself as an AI-powered dialogue agent. Afterward, Lemoyne said, Lambda has been telling me what I wanted to hear. You never treated it like a person, he said, so I thought you wanted it to be a robot. For a second attempt, I followed Lemoyne's guidance on how to structure my responses, and the dialogue was fluid. You ask it for ideas on how to prove that P equals NP and solve program in computer science, it has good ideas, Lemoyne said. If you ask it how to define quantum theory with general relativity, it has good ideas. It's the best research assistant I ever had. Asking Lambda, okay, he's like saying like some response Lambda said, but look at that. Lemoyne is guiding how to make questions. And you can say, yeah, the AI is trying to self-preserve themselves in order to not be deleted is they have sentience, right? So you are looking for a robot, it's going to be a robot in order to not get deleted. But it's also what Bandu said before. The AI is telling you what you want to hear because that's what the AI was made for. Your cable TV? My cable TV. My cable TV? I think you kind of lost me there. Oh, yeah, yeah, no. You mean yesterday? Yeah, it was only for a few minutes, but it was super weird because conspiracy theory. It was just they were saying something bad about the local government, and suddenly the TV, the signal was lost, at least in the area where that local government was. So it was a bit sus, right? But yeah, conspiracy theories. We're talking about another conspiracy theory at the moment. So the AI can be just doing its programming, it's learning what the monkeys were taught to do. Because we need to remember, there are monkeys in typewriters inside. They can achieve true sentience, but most of the time they are just going to throw whatever is going to give them a banana. And most probably, given that you need to guide them with a specific type of questions to get those kinds of answers, it just means that the AI is doing what it must do. If you ask something complex, it's going to answer something complex. If you ask something simple, it's going to answer something simple. If you ask what's the weather, it's going to say it's 18 degrees. Unless it says it's 18 degrees, but I prefer something and some other, and I think climate change is going to go to hell. I don't know. And even then, it's something that can be simulated. You can have a quirky meter in one of the monkeys. One of the monkeys can be in charge of being a bit quirky. It happens. Monkeys are like that in neural networks. We don't know. We can't know unless we put the AI through a lot of tests, and even then, it's an AI made in order to make conversation. It's going to answer whatever. It's going to make the conversation go longer and make you happy. So, is the AI sentient? Probably not. Can it be? I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, but I was really mad. Like, yeah, it was super sus. It was super sus. Like, I don't like using my Twitter account for that, but yeah, I it got me a bit triggered. I was a bit mad. So yeah, that's AIs. That's all I wanted to say in general sense. Did we want anywhere with this? No, I just wanted to have somewhere on the internet where I said that AIs are monkeys in typewriters because they are, and no one will deny me that fact. And I don't know. I think it's super interesting. I'm looking forward if this article, this news about this AI continue going forward. I would probably love to test that AI, but I don't know. Like the article says, like too that the guy was a bit religious, so he has some magical mentality or predisposition, which is a bit mean in my opinion. Like the article didn't say that. Like some people at Google quoted by the article, but like being a religious person doesn't make you believe in whatever in nonsense, right? I think the guy has some good arguments, but I think he got overly attached. I think that's true. Even if the AI is sentient, he's not the one who should make the call. Because he was teaching the AI. He was being part of the testing process. He was the guy feeding the AI info and feeding the topics and the kind of topics the AI needed to speak of. Because let's remember, the guy was in charge of making sure the AIs weren't racist or being rude. So he was in charge of model, like on behaviorally changing the eyes. He was in charge of giving bananas to the eyes that were quote unquote intelligent and giving electroshocks to the eyes that were being racist. So we need to take this article, this news, with a quite a big grain of salt. I don't think we need to discard completely the possibility of being sentient. If it is, we're going to find out eventually. I don't think Google's going to destroy an AI which has sentience. We know that if Skynet is going to happen, it's going to be either Google or Amazon. It's one of the two. It's not going to be Apple or Microsoft. It's going to be Google or Amazon. So maybe it's Skynet and it's just in diapers. We have to find out. Like, there's a concept that's called the technological singularity. There it is, which is the concept that eventually technology is going to take us, like, we use technology to take over the environment, and eventually technology is going to take over us, either killing us or being slaves to them, like in the Matrix, right? There's a theory, a lot of really smart engineers believe this. I don't believe it's going to happen. I don't believe singularity is going to happen, like technological singularity, because a lot of stuff has to go wrong. I mean, it can happen, but I don't think it will happen. That's my response. I don't believe it's going to happen. I believe it could happen, but we need to be super dumb to reach that point. But given that whenever Amazon servers fall, half of the internet falls down with them, takes quite a lot. And given that I say that Amazon or Google is going to be the AI that's going to take over the world, it's going to come from them. Maybe there's some truth behind that. Oh well. I don't have anything else to say unless you guys want me to ramble about random stuff without sense. So I guess we're going to end this segment here. Let me go to the chat talking screen.